Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Talos of Tech, live on Twitch. I was adjusting the mic. Sorry if it made a weird noise, but good to be live again. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. It was funny. There were quite a few people, actually, that were wondering where I was because I took 2 days off. They were just like, True, where have you been? What's going on? Some people in the tech community will take months off. I take 2 days off. People are just like, where were you? What happened? What happened to your video? I'll still get that every weekend or so. People will reply, "Where are your videos? Why aren't you uploading?" That kind of thing. Hilarious. But I'm also glad for the for the interest people have in the videos. I'm glad you guys are enjoying them as much as I am. I'm trying to make myself laugh with them best I can. But yeah, I have been frustrated to no end because of stupid smart bulbs I've had to put up with. The lighting might even look a little bit different in today's stream because I bought a smart bulb that will not connect to my new Wi-Fi, which is quite annoying considering how simple I think it should be. But smart home appliances in general, between the Google smart speakers and the Amazon Cloud Cams and my smart bulbs, have all had the most frustrating, really hard time switching to a different Wi-Fi network, which doesn't sound very complicated in itself, right? It doesn't sound like a big deal to be like, hey, you're a smart speaker, you connect to the internet, you play music, or you're a light bulb, you turn on and off, or you change color, whatever, or you're a security camera, okay? You show footage of outside, great, got it. You don't need like a master's degree to understand how this stuff works. But at the same time, I have had to basically factory reset everything in order to change its Wi-Fi network. There's not a thing that just says change Wi-Fi to this. Essentially, there's not like a um, adjust Wi-Fi network option in settings, which makes zero sense to me. I don't understand why it works that way, but that's been the experience. I had to reset all of the Amazon security cameras. I had to reset every Google speaker we still use. Yes, believe it or not, we still have a Google Home Max. We still use that. We have two Google Home Minis. It just works, right? And I was like going through the Google Home app, connecting to the device, and I was like, it says this is the Wi-Fi network you're connected to. It's just Tailosive. And I'm like, okay, how do I change that to Starlink though? I want to switch to the Starlink router. And no, I know some people were saying like you can just change the name of your old Wi-Fi of your new router to the same network and make it the same password, and then all of your smart bulbs will carry over. But the thing is, I'm still experimenting between Xfinity Wi-Fi and Starlink Wi-Fi, so I want to be able to tell the difference. So I'm not going to be naming two different routers the same name with the same password. Otherwise, I'm going to always forget which Wi-Fi I'm actually using. So that's why I called the Starlink Wi-Fi Starlink and the Xfinity Wi-Fi Xfinity. I don't want them to be the same, but I want to put everything on Starlink to see how it does. My goodness, factory resetting everything, and I have spent like over an hour trying to get the colored bulb that I use in the background of my tech videos to set up with Starlink. And I think it might legitimately be defective now. Like, I have unplugged it, reset it. I have tried multiple different things, and yet it will not pair. Whether I go through HomeKit, whether I go through the LifeX app, it will not connect. It will not connect. And I know some people are probably just going to tell me I should have tried the Philips bulbs. I don't want to have to plug in an extra hub to my router. I already feel like there's too much complexity with modems and routers and all that. And with Philips, you got to add another thing, another box, which is probably going to need its own power supply. Just even add more complexity. I don't think you should have to dedicate a whole separate router just for smart bulbs. I don't know why that can't just carry off of your pre-existing Wi-Fi, but it would not work. I don't know how. I don't know why. Um, Jamin Lean said, we have a printer that's main feature was easy Wi-Fi connectivity. It worked for a month, then refused to connect to our network because it's mesh. Ugh, that's so frustrating. I hate it when stuff like that happens. I agree. Marquez brought it up in his recent video. I wholeheartedly agree. There's a piece of tech that pretty much everybody has to put up with and everybody has to use, but they pretty much all suck, and that is printers. And I feel like I'm hoping, Marquez obviously has a great amount of influence. He's interviewed some of the most famous figures in tech. Um, it's an amazing. Sorry, I don't know what happened to. I was gonna answer that question. Okay, it's back. I am experimenting with something today. No, this is not Starlink. I'm not streaming off of Starlink, but I'm also not streaming off of Xfinity. So I do notice there was just a bit of lag there, but it was pretty stable. Not sure what caused that, but I guess we'll find out by the end of the stream. I'll go into that in a minute. Smart bulbs that just use Wi-Fi without a bridge just slow down your Wi-Fi network if you use too much. I feel like they don't though, because I've been using these LifeX bulbs for 3 years now, and I've been able to still get all of my same equal speeds. They didn't really bog down the Wi-Fi speed that noticeably, at least. As a designer, I am so sad how so many smart devices are just dumb devices that can connect to Wi-Fi and turn on and off. Well, okay, that's another one I wanted to complain about. This has nothing to do with Starlink. This was a huge issue I had way before. Um, this was an issue I had way before Starlink was entering the picture. But these new string lights I put up, actually, my wife put them up. She did a great job because people didn't like the soundproofing tiles, so we put up the little string lights that are kind of cool looking. And now the sun is acting all weird. I'm gonna turn on my ceiling light because I realize that's been off. I'm a little yellow, but whatever. It's a little orangey. That's fine. You can see me all right. Um, I bought a few years ago. I bought a smart plug. Um, that's supposed to be very simple, right? It's like a very basic 110 outlet. You plug into the wall, and then you plug something else into that, and then via smart control, you can set that on and off, right? You can either through Siri or through Control Center or through the HomeKit app, you can just turn on and off whatever is plugged into that thing, which is a pretty great solution, right? Because if you have an old lamp that might have a very specific type of bulb and you don't want to take the bulb out or something, or anything else, it could be, I don't know, a refrigerator for whatever. Anything you plug in with a standard 110 outlet, you can control via this little smart plug. And I think it's made by Insignia is the brand. This is not an ad. In fact, I'm about to hate on them. But basically, you need this one type of Insignia app to set up this thing. Even though it works with HomeKit, apparently. The branding is, works with HomeKit, works with Apple, which is why I got it, is because I wanted to control it from the HomeKit, the Home app, and I wanted to control it from Control Center on my iPhone and everything. And yet, now I can't find that app. Either they took it off the App Store or something, but I was troubleshooting. I was looking up online. I was like, how do you get this to work? And every article I found was just saying, like, you need to set it up with this app, which is no longer available on the App Store. So because I hadn't set up the smart plug in a while, and it was in storage for a bit, and now I wanted to plug in all these string lights to this smart plug so that I could control it via whatever, to control the string lights from a Siri command. Because my dream vision that I used to shoot for with all this smart stuff was I wanted to be able to walk in my office and say, Siri, let's record a tech video, and then all the lights come on. That was my dream. But now I can't even set up the smart plug because you need a certain app with a certain email, a certain password. If you try to set it up through HomeKit and enter in the HomeKit code, it's just like, oh, I can't connect to this. I can't find it. And it's like, oh, okay, well, you should factory reset this thing. So you have to unplug it and plug it back in, or hit the button like 10 times to get it to factory reset. Doesn't matter. Still won't connect via HomeKit. Has nothing to do with the Wi-Fi. It was you have to buy from a popular brand to get the bulb. It doesn't matter to me. I still think, even if I thought it was a pretty popular brand, it had good reviews when I bought it and stuff. It wasn't like I was buying off Alibaba or something weird or anything like that. No, it was like an established brand that had good reviews and said worked with HomeKit. But for whatever reason, that app doesn't exist anymore, so I can't set it up, and you can't set up devices directly through the Home app for whatever reason, because they decided, no, every one of these accessories has to go through a third-party application, and that application needs its own email and it needs its own password. And I would honestly like I hate the concept that you have to buy from Philips and you have to buy their hub because it costs way more and they make you buy a bunch of them. It's a lot more expensive if you want to just buy one bulb. Instead, they're like, no, you actually got to buy like 2 or 4 bulbs in order to make it worthwhile. Because I'm not interested in spending $50 on a light bulb. I feel like just having a light bulb that can turn on and off should not be a $50 purchase. And yet, that's what it has to be in order to get it working properly. And if you don't buy the $50 bulb, uh, I guess it's a single use bulb. You can set it up with one Wi Fi network. And then when you want to factory reset it and connect it to a different Wi Fi network, it just won't happen. It just doesn't work. Ugh. I don't know. I'm very frustrated with it. This doesn't need to be the whole stream's topic, but I've wasted so much time with my bulb today. And now I'm completely out of ideas. I don't know what else to do. I don't want to spend more money on this crap because I already feel like an idiot spending so much money on things that don't work. Um, so I'm not interested in the Drew, just buy this solution because I know money can solve almost any problem. Drew, just buy this, buy this. I'm like, no, thank you. But the background of my videos, I've always wanted to be this like blue hue, and yet now I can't get this bulb to connect to anything. Since I factory reset it, it won't connect to the old Wi-Fi or the new Wi-Fi. Um, I've tried factory resetting. I've tried troubleshooting. I've tried checking online for other people having the same issue. And now I'm just like, I don't know how to make the background of my videos blue. Unless, Drew, you got to buy one of these. Buy one of these. And I'm just like, so basically, because I wanted to change out my router with a different router, my lighting now will not work. So that's that's my frustration with technology of today, is how dumb a smart bulb is. Its literal only purpose is to turn on and change colors so that I could have a blue background for my tech video. And now it literally cannot do the one thing it was made to do. And the main reason I, for the most part, have been very happy with my LIFX bulbs. They've worked fine in the past. I've set them up in, when they were new, they were fine. But this whole process of trying to change them into a different Wi-Fi is so complicated. And I've had the same thing with Insignia, which is not even owned by LIFX. So it's like, I hate to go the Philips route because they're so much more pricey and you got to buy a whole separate router. With Starlink, I don't know if I can even plug it into the Starlink router because there's only 2 ports on it and I'm using one of them. So, it's a big mess. Smart stuff. Just the whole setup of it is far too complicated. Just paint a white bulb blue. That requires money. I hate that this was a fine problem. It was not a problem, and now just wanting to change to a different router, everything, I have to spend money now. That's the only solution. I have to spend more money on products in order to fix buying a different router. It should not be this big an issue. Telling smart home devices, hey, I would like to use this Wi-Fi network now, should not require any money to be spent. That should be a setting, like it was for the HomePod. Like, I connected my phone to Wi-Fi, to Starlink, and I opened the Home app, and the HomePod just said, this HomePod is connected to a different Wi-Fi network. Tap here to switch it to your current iPhone's Wi-Fi. And I just tapped one button, and it was like, loading for a sec, boom. HomePod switched over. And yet all these other devices are like, oh, you want to change Wi-Fi? You got to start over. You got to basically reset the entire device. You got to find a paper clip. You got to shove it in the back of this tiny little hole. In order to reset it, you got to hold down this button. You got to set the whole thing up over again. It's going to ask you your location. It's going to ask you to set up all your settings for the Google Home Minis have a stupid amount of settings. When you set that thing up, it shouldn't be that complicated. It should be like, sign in with Google. Done. Instead, it's like, do you want to do this? Do you want to plug it in with what music device? What is your location? We need to know your location for a smart speaker. There's like 10 different screens you had to go through for each one. It's awful. I hate how complicated it is. But at least on all of my smart speakers and the security cameras, they did eventually switch over. They're working now. They're working fine. answer a Alex Lancaster film. Imagine if Siri judged you for your requests. I think she did. I think she is judging me. The Game Cousins ask, has Starlink cutouts still been happening the same amount? No. I'm very happy to report the cutouts were actually very frequent when we first set it up for the first day or two. But afterwards, the cutouts have been much less, much far few between. They don't never happen, but my wife worked off of Starlink for an entire day, all day Saturday. She worked a full shift, and she was on Starlink the entire time, and it worked great for her. No complaints. And I've been uploading my videos from Starlink ever since we set it up, and it's been working fine. The cutouts were definitely more noticeable in the first 48 hours. That's when, we set it up and then we were watching TV that night and it kept buffering every so often. It would buffer and then continue. The buffers usually didn't take long. We'd be like watching a TV show and then every 30 minutes it would cut out for 5 seconds. But in the past 2 days, it has not cut out at all. And we've been watching a lot of TV. Like we watched movies. What did we watch? I think we watched Our Idiot Brother. That was pretty good. I don't think we watched a movie yesterday. Oh, we watched The Vow. That's what it was with Channing Tatum. That was pretty terrible. But she wanted to watch it. We watched The Vow, and it didn't buffer at all. And we've been watching Grounded for Life on Peacock. We just finished it. That was an amazing show. Ended too soon, though. I was really happy with it. But yeah, the last couple days, it has not been buffering. Unfortunately, I did a stream test this morning. OBS requires a bit more upload than streaming a movie or a show. And OBS still seems to cut out on occasion. I think the upload is a bit more sporadic, which is the reveal of this live stream that I'm kind of excited to try out. I am streaming this Twitch stream via Mint Mobile. Not a sponsor, but I wanted to try something out because Xfinity is expensive, right? So basically we're looking at our quickest route of how do we not spend any more money on Xfinity, because every month they seem to be getting more expensive and we'd like to not have to use them if possible, because we love Starlink and I'm digging Starlink. It's cheaper than Xfinity. And we contacted Xfinity to check out what other plans, other tiers they have. And they're not very good. Basically, you have the gigabit plan, and then you have the everything else sucks plan. So there's not a great mid-tier, essentially. Like, it would be a bit easier to justify if there was a way I could downgrade Xfinity, pay like half as much, and still get about the same upload. But that's not really an option for us, unfortunately. Basically, you have the choice of 1,000 down, 40 up for for over $100 a month. And then to get unlimited data, you have to do, $140 a month or something crazy like that. And a cheaper tier for Xfinity is like 100 down, 20 up. And the cheaper plan than that is like 25 down, 3 up. They don't display their upload speeds on the website, which is very confusing. So we had to call in Xfinity to get the numbers. But there's not really a great middle ground plan. There's not really a tier in between gigabit and 100. At least where we live, Xfinity offers different things in every location. So I've seen people before tell me, get this plan or get this plan, get this plan. It's not the same everywhere. We don't have fiber optics where we live, which is why a gigabit up and down is not a thing where we are. I would love if that was a thing, but it's not. Also, I think that's like $300 a month or something crazy like that. But I think there is a reason they don't do up and down. It has to do with the wiring, the infrastructure. It's not like any cable can instantly do 1,000 up or 1,000 down. There is some hardware limitations that I've read about. There is certain internet that is easier to optimize for download, and there's certain internet that's easier to go back and forth at equal speeds. Game Cousin says, I have 300 down and 20 up from Xfinity. See, even that annoys me because Starlink does occasionally go over 20, which is why, to me, downgrading Xfinity so that we can have internet that's not quite as good as Starlink is frustrating, because I want to keep Starlink and I want to support SpaceX. Um, and the plans we were looking at weren't really that much cheaper in the first place, especially once you tack on Xfinity charges an additional $30 for unlimited data, which is annoying because Starlink includes that. So, um, and Starlink will get better over time. It will get faster, as Elon's saying they expect the speeds to double by the end of this year. So basically, I was looking for a band-aid. I was like, all right, Starlink is working great for my wife. In fact, all day today she's been working off of it. I can upload my videos off of it. We can stream movies off of it. We can watch YouTube with it and do all the things we normally use our internet for. I've connected our security cameras to Starlink. I've connected our smart speakers to Starlink, and they're all working. They're all streaming music and all that. The one bottleneck that was a bit frustrating though with Starlink is that it drops frames occasionally when streaming via OBS. So I was like, okay, well that will get better in time. Starlink is technically in beta right now. The connection will get more stable as the year goes on, and they officially take it out of beta this summer, and the speeds get better and everything. So I was like, what can I use in the short term for live streaming that will allow me to still retain um, somewhat less frame drops? I mean, to be fair, Xfinity dropped frames too sometimes. Xfinity wouldn't be the most consistent internet. I mean, out of the three here, it's probably the most consistent, but I'm just saying it wasn't flawless. Okay, there were times Xfinity service was spotty and I would drop frames with OBS. If you've been watching the Twitch streams somewhat regularly, it's happened before where Xfinity stops working. But so I was like, Mint Mobile, we're going to pay for anyway because it's our phone service. That's our LTE and everything. And it's very affordable. I wonder how fast the speeds are if I hotspot my iMac Pro off of my phone. So I was testing it a little bit out today, and it seems to be pretty reliable. But the phone has to be in a very specific place, which is funny. Like, I drop a bunch of frames if my phone is on the left side of my desk versus if it's on the right side. And then I realized I could get 4 bars if I put my phone on the box that my Blackmagic box is sitting on right now. So the upload is not great. I think I did a speed test and it was around 10 or 10 to 15 megabits up, but it's only one device at a time, right? It's just the iMac Pro. There's not a bunch of other devices trying to use upload at the same time. So yeah, kind of like Mike's situation, utilizing the hotspot best you can. It probably is going to consume a bit more data. So for a while, I've been planning on making the switch to the 4 gigabyte Mint Mobile plan. Right now, I'm thinking about staying on the 10 gig plan if I do plan on doing more live streams off of my phone's hotspot. But I don't know. I'll have to look at Mint Mobile and see how much data this uses. But there's an argument to be made as to why 10 gigs would be the better option. But Mint Mobile, we're paying for. It's as cheap as it can possibly be, and we've referred a bunch of people, so we have a ton of renewal credits on Mint Mobile as well. So that's not a cost. That's not a huge expense. It's not something we can downgrade anyway. Mint Mobile's like the cheapest phone service I think I've ever seen. I have the 12 mini for those curious. Unlimited data on Mint, I don't know if that would make a huge difference anyway, because I know that unlimited data on Mint, as well as several other, even on T-Mobile and Verizon and stuff, they have a data cap on hotspot. So I don't think unlimited is necessary. I genuinely don't think the live streams that I'm doing on Twitch consume that much data in the first place. It's not like several gigabytes per stream. I think it's like, I did some testing with it this morning. If my numbers are correct, I think each live stream uses about 0.4 gigs, so around 400 megabytes or something like that, which I could fit within a 10 gig per month limit if I needed to. That name's taken. Thank you for the Twitch Prime. Sorry I didn't read that earlier. Appreciate that. Expos 1 subscribed for 25 months with Prime 2 days ago. Don't know if you're watching, but thank you. There's the gigabit plan. There's the everything sucks plan. Yep, sounds like Comcast. Yeah, pretty much. My mom got her new iPhone 10R in 2019 at Verizon, and the Wi-Fi at Verizon was provided by Cox and was 5 megabits down, while the LTE's was 120 megabits down and 40 megabits up. How ironic. Yeah, there's a lot of people that do cellular um, hotspot for places that don't have adequate coax and that kind of thing. That's very common, actually. I watched a bunch of people unboxing and setting up Starlink, and a lot of people were replacing basically their phone acting as their modem, which honestly, that's kind of how Tailosive started back when I first quit my day job so I could do YouTube full time. Um, my phone was my hotspot for everything. That was kind of my lifeline. It's not something I plan on doing permanently. Like I don't intentionally plan on just using my phone hotspot forever because I do believe Starlink will get more steady and the speeds will get way better to the point that I will be able to stream via Starlink only in the future. In fact, maybe even as soon as this summer. It might just be like 3 to 4 months away where the connection, because the speed is not the problem. The average speeds I'm getting with Starlink are able to sustain a live stream. It's just that occasionally the signal goes rip and comes right back. But just that little 5 second cutout is enough for the stream to lag and to drop frames. So I'm basically looking for, I don't want to pay for Xfinity for another 5 months because that's going to be collectively, what, like $600, $700, unless I can find a little band-aid solution that won't cost much because I pay for Mint Mobile by the year, so it's already been paid for. Um, do you get 5G at home or is this LTE? This is LTE, believe it or not. 5G is not available in here. I think I can get a little 5G if I go outside and stand in my front yard, but no, this is LTE. This is 4 bars of LTE. Ironically, I just saw some lag now, but there is a little bit of frame droppage with the LTE hotspot, but not a terrible amount. I'm noticing a little right now. I see it. You'll probably see it too, but it's definitely a bit better than Starlink, which is around a 6% frame drop after an hour of streaming, whereas this is around 1%, averaging about a 1% frame drops, which is honestly pretty close to what Xfinity was. So yeah, this is you're watching this via Mint Mobile LTE, which is my band-aid solution until Starlink is a bit more steady. But this is pretty much the only thing I would use the Mint Mobile hotspot for. Uploading videos with Starlink is fine, um, and so is watching movies and stuff. We've been watching a bunch of content over it, and it's not had any problems. We kind of forget it's Starlink occasionally. Let's see. Okay, wait, why are smart bulbs dumb? I missed it. Basically, simply pops. I've been trying to switch all of my smart bulbs over to the Starlink router, and they've been giving me huge headache, which is frustrating. So, Volts PC says I just did a speed test and I get 180/10 on 5G with 2 bars. That's crazy. I live out in the suburbs. I remember the days of 3G. God, things have changed. I've gotten 180 is pretty high. I've gotten over 100 with LTE, which to me, honestly, everything after 100 is kind of pointless. Unless you're downloading like huge files, unless you're like downloading games that are, hundreds of gigabytes, everything after 100 just kind of blurs together. You can do FaceTime, you can play games, you can watch high resolution content. After 100 megabits, it's fine. Fastest LTE I've had in the city is 160 megabits down and 40 up. Yeah, that sounds about right. That would be my optimum speed. See, Xfinity was able to get 40 up, but I'm okay with living with a little bit less if it means I can save some money and not have to deal with Xfinity anymore. So yeah, that's 40 is kind of optimum. Obviously, if your upload can be any better than that, that would be awesome. Starlink is now also available in our country, the Netherlands, but I wonder if it's useful over here because we live so dense, most neighborhoods have fiber. Yeah, fiber is probably always going to be better performance-wise than Starlink just because fiber optics pretty much allow for 1,000 down or up. I've been to a few friends' houses with fiber, and that's obviously the dream internet, but I live in a place that's very unlikely to get fiber anytime soon. Mike says, just sustain a chemical reaction that outputs high energy light blue. Tech videos fixed. Yeah, that's not a terrible idea, Mike. I think we should just sustain a chemical reaction. What I should find is some like blue napkin or something and wrap it around it. LTE in London getting me 180 down, 45 up. 5G is half that. Well, 5G doesn't have a set speed, but I generally agree with you. LTE is fine. The reason people marketing is of 5G is all about just how much faster it is, but in reality, the best thing we could possibly get out of 5G is just a bit more bandwidth. Because honestly, I don't think the main reason people have slow speeds with LTE is because LTE is just tapped out. It's usually because there's not good coverage in that area. Mint's unlimited plan is only 30. That's most. After 30, it just gets a bit slower, but it's still technically all Mint plans are unlimited because they don't charge overage fees once you hit your data cap. Verizon and T-Mobile do the same type of thing. They say unlimited, but then when you reach a certain point, it slows down more. When will it be a feature when a phone lacks 5G? I don't know if you should call it a feature exactly, but you mean like a difference. Remember when having the headphone jack became a feature compared to traditional smartphones? It just became it eventually just started to become the norm that phones wouldn't have a headphone jack, to the point that it started becoming like a selling point. Hey, actually, that's that phone actually has a headphone jack still. Switch to Xfinity Mobile. They're more expensive. We looked into that. Data per gig, it costs more than Mint. Especially if you consider Mint has a referral program, which we can take advantage of, which I genuinely appreciate. Yusuf the Ace says, it's been a while since I've been in a Tailosive stream. Welcome back, Yusuf. How goes it? Why it's dumb? Why unlimited is not truly unlimited. I agree the marketing is dumb, but it's standard in the US. I mean, if you can only use data on your phone, the speeds aren't going to be what can you actually do on your phone that consumes that much data? Once you start using over 30 gigs, you're doing something out of the ordinary typically. It'd be very, very difficult to just watch enough YouTube to hit 30 gigs. That's on a phone at least, because you can't really go much higher than 1080p. We just jumped onto the 4G train in the Caribbean, so 5G is still some years away. 4G is where it's at, man. 4G is what it should be. Well, we've been streaming for about 36 minutes, and I'm noticing the connection being a lot more spotty, which is interesting. I don't know what's changed or what's happening. The phone is just sitting there doing nothing. I even closed all the apps on it, but less frame drops than Starlink at least. I hope it can stay at least somewhat consistent, because I would like to not keep spending $150 on Xfinity. That would be ideal. I have a 500 megabyte data plan that renews every month, and I haven't ever maxed it out yet. 500 megabytes? Wow. Yeah, I guess in the age of the pandemic, that's probably pretty common. The most noticeable thing with the iPhone 12 is not 5G speeds, but the better 4G speeds. There's probably a lot of truth to that, Volts, because they did finally switch to the Qualcomm. They did switch to the Qualcomm modems, which have been known to be a lot faster than the Intel modems they were using in the iPhone 11 and pretty much every iPhone before that. But the Intel just left the modem business. Apple bought them out. I was just thinking about that recently. People were saying stuff like Apple had to choose between 5G and 120 hertz. I was like, no. The 5G thing was not up for discussion. The Intel was not in the modem game anymore. And Qualcomm was pretty much the only company that could supply them enough modems to get to the point where they could actually produce enough iPhones to meet demand. And Qualcomm was going to require 5G. They weren't going to sell Apple a bunch of 4G modems. It wasn't going to happen. So I was like, yeah, the 5G was a given. That was inevitable. Phone adjust 2 micrometers. Nope, bad connection. I guess that's how. I haven't touched it though. I mean, it's charging. I don't know if MagSafe impacts your cellular. I don't know. It's like everything has to be just so to get that connection very, very stable. But right now it's doing stuff like this. I can see the OBS kilobits per second counter right now, and it's all over the place. But I'm looking at the real time playback, and it lags on occasion. As long as my audio is uninterrupted, that would be pretty nice. What's the rant about smart home appliances? Oh, just we started this whole stream ranting about how bulbs and outlets and stuff make it so hard to switch Wi-Fi networks, and I've been having to spend hours trying to get a smart bulb to work, and it still won't. MagSafe is probably blocking the signal. I feel like all the antennas are on the outside chassis, though. There's not a ton of antennas on like the bottom charge coil. Audio is always perfect. It's only the video that drops. Well, that's good. As long as you can hear me through it, I don't really mind. The money from 5G infrastructure would be better spent on improving 4G infrastructure globally. Well, I agree globally, but there's a lot of carrier companies, to be fair, that don't operate outside of a few countries. So them going global doesn't really help them very much. But I do very much agree that coverage does not seem to be a huge priority. It seems like so much of the marketing and so much of the money spent on 5G is all about. I've pretty much the only times I've seen 5G are in places that already had decent LTE. Kind of the same thing with ultra wideband. Like there's all these places they're bringing ultra wideband 5G, which is the actual, in my opinion, it's the actual form of 5G that you can see the gigabit speeds with that no one actually utilizes because you're on a phone. So you're not going to really download that much if you're on a phone anyway. But they're putting all these ultra wideband infrastructure and they're advertising it like there's no tomorrow in all these places that are already fine with LTE coverage. So to me, that's a whole lot of money wasted on places that already have fine internet. It's not like there were a bunch of people there that didn't have decent LTE. It was just like people had 50 to 60 megabits LTE, which they were using for Twitter and YouTube, and they could get by with. And now they have 1,000, where there's still a bunch of people getting like sub 1 megabit down LTE across the country because the signal is so crappy because of lack of coverage. And I would have rather them just put up more cell towers, put up more LTE so that people can actually do basics, focus more on 100 megabits per second everywhere instead of 1,000 in a few places. Makes no sense. I did read about that. There was a tweet Verizon made to switch off 5G for better battery life, which is hilarious. How much advertising has been spent on 5G talking about how great it is, and now they're just like, you could turn it off. Oh, that's hilarious. I find tethering the iPhone via Lightning works best. Oh, I haven't tried that. I mean, the phone is right next to the iMac Pro. I doubt that's the issue. But we're going portless soon anyway, so who cares? Oh, God. What did AJ... What is this picture? What did AJ just send? Look at this crap. Why are the arrow keys big, but this is a bit... Cursed. Is this a cursed image? Where is the shift key? I know we already have one on the other side, so we don't need this, but what the crap is this picture? This is hurting my brain. I was just looking at it out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, hold the phone. What is going on? Gross. Got me looking at my magic keyboard. Well, normally the arrow keys only have a gap like that if they're... That's an abomination. Unacceptable. MagSafe makes a lot of extra heat, so that might not be a great idea when you're hammering your modem to stream a video. I do wonder how hot the phone is. That would be interesting. Let's see. How much will the iPhone 11 or iPhone XS would be when iPhone 15 comes out? Well, Apple won't be selling an iPhone 11 or 10 when the 15 comes out. So, you're talking used? I mean, 15. What are we talking here? Are we talking 13, 14, 15, 3 years from now? iPhone 11 new is $600. If it's $600 new, then 3 years from now, yeah, probably around 300, right? $300 to $200. Just put the side arrows, up and down arrow keys to the side. Oh God, that's confusing. What about S years? Well, that's what I don't know what he's referring to. Are you referring 12S, 13, 13S, 14, 14S, 15? That's a lot longer. By then, the iPhone 11 will be like $100 probably. Oh, geez. iPhone 10 is 300 used, so like 50. Will it be $50? I don't know if the decrease in price over time is linear like that, though. I don't think it like progressively goes down that quickly. Now I'm curious. I want to pick up the phone for a second and see how hot it is. Ooh. Yeah, it is pretty warm. I'm going to leave MagSafe detached for a sec and see if that makes a difference. I don't think it will, but 300. Are you serious? You can get an iPhone 10 for $300 now? That's still a solid phone. The battery life isn't great, but my wife used the 10 for a while, I think. Now my mom is using a 10. I'm not streaming on Starlink. I wanted to try streaming from Mint Mobile to see what it would be like, but what's interesting is the first like 30 minutes it was fine. Maybe I should leave the iPhone on a little cooling pad, because I'm betting that the performance drop is from the heat of the iPhone getting hot. I wanted to see what bandwidth would be like doing off the hotspot, but yeah. Oldest phone I could see Apple selling when the iPhone 15 comes out is like the iPhone 12 or 13. Yeah, part of me wonders if like they would keep the 12 mini around. Like there were rumors that they were going to stop producing the iPhone 12 mini because they've made so much of them and they're not selling that great. So what if because they have such a huge surplus of the iPhone 12 mini, they like start decreasing the price of it so people can buy it and go through the inventory that Apple already has. I don't know. Did you see the rumors in 2019 about Apple making a satellite internet service? Doubt it. I think I briefly read that once, but it's not happening. Highly doubt that happening. I have an iPhone 10, and honestly, I don't want to switch yet. No, I don't blame you. The iPhone 10 was, I'd say, of all phones of 2017, that one's probably aged the best. You've still got the OLED display, you still got Face ID, you still got stainless steel, still a pretty decent camera. I'm sure, although I know the newer iPhones have much better cameras, but I just mean iPhone 10 was by far the biggest leap in regards to smartphones, iPhones year over year. Just the amount of changes within a single upgrade that will most likely never be matched again. There will never be iPhones hitting that level of upgrades, that many changes. They did hire some aerospace experts, and they would make a lot of money. They would need to launch them. They wouldn't need to launch them themselves. Well, that would make it a lot harder to compete with. All I'm trying to say, Byron, is that almost every internet satellite company has gone bankrupt. Elon has said it's a huge major concern for them to just not go bankrupt. That's their primary goal with Starlink, is to not run out of money. And the reason Starlink has a chance at succeeding is because SpaceX is doing everything in-house. They build the rockets, they reuse their own rockets so that they can save money on the launches, and they build their own satellites, and they sell the internet service themselves. They build their own terminals, the dish that goes up. They build their own routers. They do everything in-house so that they can save the most amount of money. Whereas if Apple outsourced that, they would have to pay another rocket company to send up their own satellites, and they would be severely behind because there's already, I think OneWeb is another one. Amazon wants to make their own satellite internet service. And pretty soon, when we have thousands and thousands, Yeah, I agree, Mike. Throwing a lot of aerospace engineers at a communications issue isn't always the best play. When you have thousands and thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit, at a certain point, you're not going to be able to add more and more because NASA and space companies are going to start saying this is too much. You know, this is it's going to overwhelm how many satellites we have. So it's kind of a first come first serve industry. And Apple, based on the fact they don't have any satellites in low Earth orbit currently, um, means that they're already behind on this satellite internet industry. Starlink is by far in the lead, mostly because of the Falcon 9 rocket being able to launch 60 at a time, and they can launch them so affordably because they can, later today oh no, they canceled it. They pushed it back to March 4th. This Thursday, there's going to be another Starlink launch of 60 satellites, and then on March 7th, there's supposed to be another one. So there's so many Starlink satellites going up because SpaceX can reuse their rockets, and Apple is at such a severe, I mean, just for the fact that they don't have their own rockets means that they would have to pay a lot more to set up a internet service like Starlink. So again, I don't think Apple's interested in this in the first place. They probably maybe briefly looked into it and just decided, oh wait, we would have to spend how much money? And it would not be profitable. The satellite internet market is not a highly profitable industry. That's part of the reason we haven't seen Apple make an EV, is because it's very difficult to do profitably. And you know what's funny? I disconnected MagSafe from the iPhone, and I'm noticing less frame drops. So I actually think that was part of the problem. I think once I took MagSafe off, the phone was like, oh, okay, back to full speed. So maybe I should try to do a full stream without using MagSafe. I just hope the phone battery lasts long enough. That's kind of important. Yeah, Starlink missions have been delayed a lot now, but called it. Volts was correct. All right. Credits to Volts for figuring out why the speed slowed down. Let's see. I think people seem to forget that companies have to make money. I mean, Apple has all the money in the world. To be fair, Apple could go into any industry if they wanted to. Like, we talked about it before, but I'm not against really Apple going into any market. You know, if Apple wanted to just start competing with SpaceX and develop their own rockets and start flying reusable rockets, launching their own satellite service, trust me, I'd be all for that. I love private space companies, and I love Rocket Lab, and I love SpaceX developing the Neutron seems cool, and I love Starship, and I love the idea of more private industries developing rockets that can be reused to save money and make space travel more. Blue Origin, although I wish they would be doing more than what they're currently doing. Yeah, Rocket Lab's cool. Apple goes into the butter industry. Sure, why not? You know, I just like their design philosophy and that kind of thing, and I want to see Apple do more things. But Apple is a $1 trillion company now, you know, with a huge number of shareholders, and they got to issue dividends. And when a company gets as big as Apple, they kind of have to play their cards right. They kind of can't make as many big risks as a smaller startup, which can explore lots of different directions and try lots of different things. Apple's gotten so big now that they have to kind of be a lot more safe with their investments and kind of only do stuff that shareholders won't freak out about, I guess. It's not that I don't like Apple. I still think they make some of the best computers and the best smartphones and the best headphones, and man, I just ticked off a huge demographic by saying they make the best headphones, but I just mean, like, Apple is the best at making a lot of things. I haven't lost my love of Apple for that reason. But at the same time, I think some of the most innovative, most exciting technology in development is outside of Apple now, which is why I'm diversifying my content portfolio a little bit, talking more about Tesla, talking more about SpaceX, is because that's where I think, truly groundbreaking, innovative technology is coming out of those types of companies, not so much Apple anymore, because they've kind of matured. They've kind of reached their peak. They've kind of ironed out the most interesting hardware. And now Apple's game is all about services. Tim Cook has been very open about that and made it very clear they want to become more of a services company. They want to do more, that Apple Arcade, iCloud, storage plans. And that's why I kind of doubt, there's some rumors saying this year we'll see a 1 terabyte iPhone. We've heard that before. In fact, I remember hearing that like in 2018, I think, or something like that. The reason I don't think Apple's interested in making a 1 terabyte model is because that lessens the reason for people to pay for iCloud storage, which is a huge chunk of Apple's service revenue, and they know that. And it's just very excited. It's very hard to get excited for services. I think we all know that. Apple coming up with a new Apple Music plan or a new bundle or a new Apple Fitness subscription service. All of those services are very difficult to get excited for. It's like, oh, great. They found another way to take $10 a month out of my bank account. Obviously, when it comes to content creators and YouTubers, what's far more interesting to talk about is hardware. New iMac, like Volts is asking about. Yeah, I want to get the ARM iMac as soon as it comes out. I've been wanting that thing since the day the rumor of Apple switching to their own silicon has existed. I've been like, ARM iMac, that would be perfect. I love all-in-ones. I love iMacs. And I just want them to update the design and give it Apple silicon. And it sounds like they're working on one, but the release date just getting pushed and pushed and pushed. It feels like it's never going to come out. But I do want one. But that's way more exciting than talking about Apple News Plus, But that's, from a financial perspective, that's the much safer route for Apple to go, because the reason you guys see so many services, the reason you see so many Paramount Plus and Disney Plus and Peacock and Discovery Plus is because they're extremely profitable. These companies, it requires very little upfront cost. Just the cost of making movies and TV shows is like pennies compared to the cost of getting like 1 million people to be subscribing for $10 a month. They make so much money through services. Same with Amazon Prime. They make a ton of money through that. That's why Apple has a huge user base now, right? They have like 1 billion active iOS devices, or 1 billion iPhones, I think, are active and online now. And they can advertise 4 to 5 services on every single one of those. Even if only 10% of iPhone users subscribe to some type of Apple monthly service, that's still 100 million devices, 100 million people paying for iCloud storage, or 100 million people paying for Apple Music. They can make so much more money that way. So Tim Cook is a mastermind. He's not a bad CEO. It's just it's kind of inevitable, really. When you reach a certain point where your company is dominating the market share and they're creating the best product they've ever made, all companies will eventually reach this point where they're so successful that they kind of don't have much innovation going on. Like, the whole purpose of the business has been achieved. Tesla will get there too. Like, it's hard to imagine right now, but I could imagine a future 10 to 20 years from now, maybe, once the battery production ramp process has been solved and Tesla has way more vehicles being 20 million cars a year being sold, probably have a lot more trims. I don't think they're going to reach 20 million a year with 4 different vehicles. They're going to have a bunch of different models. But eventually, once you figure out how to mass produce batteries and you've taken over the world and EVs have become the mainstream, there won't be much innovation happening. And it'll just be a matter of, how many different seats can we fit in this SUV? And here's an off-road version of this car, and everything's just electric. And the innovation will be a lot less interesting. And I think all companies eventually reach that point. And I think Apple is we're seeing that point with Apple, where they've kind of innovated to the max, to the point that there's very little directions they can go with hardware. Glasses, I feel like, could be a big deal, but they're still so far off. Lithium ion is good enough to go mainstream. Battery 4680s with dry electrodes is a big enough deal to make electric vehicles kill off the combustion engine. I like how we use the term internal combustion engine opposed to external combustion engine. What does an external combustion engine look like? Is that when we have all the pistons on the outside of the vehicle going off. Is a locomotive that? I feel like that's still internal. Probably going too deep here. Shot in the Tech says, what are your thoughts on TV shows and movies switching to services in the attempt to phase out physical media? I've never really cared for physical media. I actually, so you're talking to the wrong guy if you were looking for a defense method of physical media. I get why some people like it. I understand why people like having a collection of things. I know some people that have like giant walls of DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff, but I always hated physical media growing up. Like I hated how discs could get scratched. I hated how you had to rewind VHS tapes. You couldn't just start it at the beginning. I was like, oh, gotta wait for it to rewind. And I never was super happy with it, to the point that I remember as a kid, way before I was a YouTuber, way before I made tech videos or anything, I genuinely remember when Blu-rays were announced, I was annoyed because I was like, why are you doing Blu-ray? Just go straight to let's just do digital media. Let's just do everything online. Let's just start streaming everything and not have this huge middle step. And I didn't even have that very good internet growing up, but I was mainly talking about not streaming movies, but just buying them digitally. Like Blu-ray was coming out with all this 1080p stuff, and there were even a handful of 4K Blu-rays in existence. And I was like, I would rather just buy the movie on iTunes or buy it off whatever platform you use and just own it in my iTunes library. Because I can watch that on my phone, on my iPad. That's what I thought was going to be the future before Netflix had kind of taken off. I was just like, why do we need a disc? You just buy it. Okay, you have to download it. It takes a little while. But I had crappy internet, and even I was in favor of that. I wasn't the type of person with, 50 to 100 megabits down. We still had like really crappy internet, and I was like, yeah, but you just download it once. And that's a lot. It's probably going to download a bit faster than having to drive to the store and buy it and drive back. So I was in favor of iTunes taking off, and I thought Blu-rays were kind of redundant. But I know a lot of people that are like, Blu-rays are better. They're less compressed, and the viewership is a lot higher quality, and I can take it with me or whatever. But now, in today's day and age, with things like Starlink becoming more and more possible and feasible for more people, now I feel like we're going to reach a point where everyone on Earth is going to have access to adequate internet coverage. Doesn't matter if you live in Antarctica. You're gonna, even if you live in some rural area out in the middle of nowhere, you're going to be able to get at least 100 to 200 megabits down within the next few years with services like Starlink. So now I'm all in on services or streaming. Though I'm not completely against buying media outright, because I am trying to resist how many different services there are, because I do think it's getting overwhelming. We don't pay for Netflix. We don't pay for Prime. We don't pay for Prime Video. We don't pay for Hulu. There's very few streaming services we actually pay for, to answer someone's question earlier. We're on the free Peacock plan, and it has worked out pretty well for us so far. We've been using it for like 4 months now. We've always had something to watch, and it's been free, which is nice. There's ads, but you just mute it and check your phone when there's an ad break, and then when it's over, you unmute it. It's really easy. YouTube, I'm not the same way with. YouTube is a lot harder to mute and skip, and then there's sponsorships, so you got to skip through those. And so I don't know. I'm not against buying a movie and stuff outright, but I think that in the not too distant future, pretty much everywhere on Earth is going to have adequate internet service, to the point that downloading and having physical media is kind of unnecessary. Some people will still do it, I'm sure. I have a lot of friends that are big fans of physical media, and will probably hold on to physical media. I mean, I have a few friends that are still into vinyls and records. That tech has been around for a long, long time, but people are still buying into it because some people are like, I can hear the difference, or, it's just, some people will keep it going, I'm sure. People in the Mariana Trench, where's my internet? Yeah, that would be great. Let's see. Someone can't just take away my Blu-ray, but they can disable my ability to watch my Amazon iTunes purchase. It's a big problem with licensing. I haven't seen that happening, though. I've yet to see someone like buy a movie on iTunes and then it gets taken away. Has that happened? Yeah, Shot in the Tech is making that argument. Blu-ray has higher bit rate and lossless audio. iTunes hasn't made that there yet. Plus, in their terms of service, most companies state they don't actually own it. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a fair argument. I mean, it's a technical thing. I don't know why iTunes doesn't provide copies as ultra high definition as Blu-rays. I feel like we've got internet to support it these days, but um, when everyone has viable access to internet, Comcast is screwed. Well, there's still going to be a bunch of places where Comcast is better performing. There's always going to be people that don't care about where the internet is coming from. They just want good internet. Um, and, there's a lot of people. I mean, I've seen people on Twitter argue with me about why Starlink doesn't make sense for me because Comcast is faster and not that much more expensive. So Elon Musk has been very upfront about that as well. Starlink won't replace everything. There's still going to be a lot of places where Comcast and fiber and cellular is going to make more sense. But I still think a substantial portion of the earth is going to take advantage of stuff like Starlink. It happens a lot with buying something and changing countries where iTunes doesn't have the license for that movie. It's a weird licensing issue. I've never had that because I bought movies back when I was a kid in like the 6th grade, and I still own those movies to this day. I can go watch them. Is Starlink encrypted? I don't know. I think so. I mean, I don't know how safe it is, but I'm sure Comcast isn't much safer. Like whatever Starlink is using, I doubt is easier to hack into than Comcast. Don't really believe in much cybersecurity in today's day and age. Based on conversations I've had with people that work in cybersecurity, nothing is safe. Nothing's really that safe. Yeah, you could download it to your device, but yeah, I don't know. I guess some people are always going to be a fan of physical media, but I don't see it sticking around in the long haul. Anyway, I missed the conversation on smart bulbs. It's funny in this live stream how many people want to talk more about the title. Normally people just start ignoring that, but today people are like, Comcast is using coax. The security is non-existent. Yeah. I'm sure there might be some vulnerabilities with Starlink, but I'm sure it's equal to not as bad as coax cable. My problem is more with Amazon when they specifically say you don't own it. iTunes download is good. So yeah, maybe letting people know which services to buy your movies on and stuff. I don't think I've ever bought a movie with Amazon. You can buy movies with YouTube though, I think. People can still watch those. Yeah. I can understand why people would still want physical media because they're afraid of the licensing things and changing. But even when I was a kid, I always thought that buying a movie outright was so expensive. I was like, $20 or $10 for this movie? I was like, that's so much, especially when in today's, and that has not changed, especially now. And I'm like, there's never been a movie that I wanted to watch that badly that I couldn't just wait for it to become available on some service. Because most of the time, there's not a ton of movies. Some people are different, I know. Some people are just like, no, it's today. I want to watch this movie right now. Some people have that. I've been kind of like, I'll wait till that movie's available on Peacock or on some streaming service I have access to. Like for the longest time. For the past couple years, I've been thinking, I want to watch Harry Potter. I haven't seen the Harry Potter series in years. I haven't seen like the last 5 Harry Potter movies. I only saw once when they came out in the theater. And I was like, I wonder what the Harry Potter movies are on. I'll keep my eye open for those. And then, truth be told, took a few years, but eventually all 8 Harry Potter movies became available on Peacock. And I was like, oh, cool. I guess we'll watch all the Harry Potter movies. And they gave us like a free 30-day premium plan because I think the first movie's free, which is kind of cool to be honest. You can you can download a free app that requires no money and watch Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone at no charge. I'm like, okay, great. There's just a bunch of free stuff they have on there. It's amazing. But the rest of the movies are on their premium tier, but they gave us 30 days of free premium because we'd been watching so much stuff for free. They were like, just here, use some free stuff. But yeah, I was like, okay, cool. They have all that movies. And then we watched them all and I had fun. So I'm not too picky enough with what I watch. Um, does your one free movie have ads? Actually, none of the Harry Potter movies had ads for some reason. I don't know. I'm not paying for Disney Plus, so I've seen half of WandaVision. But yeah, basically, I just go to Mike's house when I want to watch it. Usually, there's someone I know who has it, and I'll just watch it when I go to somewhere else. I'm not really willing to. I like WandaVision, but I'm not willing to pay for it. I think I'll just wait till the whole series ends and then do a free trial. Or did they take away the free trial? I forget. Some streaming services have been getting rid of the free trial. Understandably, I'm not blaming them. I understand why, because I would totally abuse the free trial. Does Disney still have one? Um, oh, wait. Will there be a free trial? Oh, anymore in the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. or Australia? Nope. Okay, they got rid of it. That's what I thought. There'll probably be some promo though. I'm not in a rush. I'm just not picky enough with what I watch to care about that type of thing, I guess. Well, the answer is there now. It wasn't when I was reading it. There's a bit of a delay, but anyway, I got to get going, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm glad that the Mint Mobile was able to carry most of this stream. 3.6% of the frames dropped, which is definitely a lot better than Starlink. So I'm going to decide whether or not I want to keep the 10 gig plan or move forward with the 4 gig plan. Mike says the second season has derailed a bit, but still a good show. Yeah, that's always been my kind of thing with Marvel. There's issues with all of Marvel, but for the casual viewer, it's great. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care. Bye bye.